Bengaluru is facing a steep water crisis, but the government seems to be drowning in the political blame game instead of exploring real-world solutions. On Friday, the district administration of Karnataka fixed rates for 200 private tankers for a 4-month period. The development comes amid private tankers doubling their prices as the Karnataka capital faces a severe water shortage. Around 200 private tankers have been deployed on a contract basis to supply water to Bengaluru. The distance, less than 5 kilometers, these are the charges for the water tankers. Rupees 600 is what will be charged for 6,000 litres, 700 for 8,000 litres and 1,000 rupees for a 12,000 litre tanker. But if the distance is between 5 to 10 kilometers, these are the rates for the water tankers. Rupees 750 for a 6,000 litre water tanker, Rupees 850 for a 8,000 litre water tanker and Rupees 1,200 for 12,000 litres. This move by the Karnataka government has not been well received by the Water Tanker Association or the citizens. Now the crisis has taken a political turn, with the BJP accusing the Siddaramaiah-led government of addressing the water crisis unscientifically and also threatening to stage a protest outside Vidhan Soudha if it does not find concrete solutions for the crisis within a week.
If in another week's time, the government does not supply through water tankers, through borewells and through other means, drinking water to the stressed areas in the city, Bharatiya Janata Party will stage a massive protest in front of Vidhan Soudha and wake up the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister and demand them to finally wake up and do their duties.
We at India Today SoSouth have been showcasing the severity of the city's water crisis where neither slums nor your posh gated communities have been spared this raging problem.
वोट लेने का टाइम ऐसा ऐसा करके आता है. अभी कौन आके देख रहा है हम लोगों को? पानी से हम मर रहा है. कितना लोग मर रहे हैं? आप अच्छा रहना, सब लोग मरना है क्या? एक गांव में आके तुम सबको मिलना है, सबको गरीब आदमी है ना, वो लोग को एक एक बिंगी छोड़ो नहीं है. 5 रुपए दिए तो पानी देता हूँ, नहीं का तो जाओ.
तो आदमी लोग को पानी के लिए मर रहा है, तुम लोग पानी छोड़ रहा है. 5 रुपए क्यों छोड़ता है? 2 रुपए क्यों छोड़ो?
ಆದರೆ ನಾವು ಟ್ಯಾಂಕರ್ ಕರೆದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅವ್ರು 1,500 ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ನಮಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ 1,500 ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ 1,500 ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದು? ನಾವು ಕೂಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರು 3,000 ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ.
As the Siddaramaiah government mandates registration of water suppliers and taking over borewells as the solution, it only seems to be escalating the crisis. What needs to be fixed to mitigate the unprecedented water crisis is to address the problem of unplanned development and infrastructural boom in the IT capital of India in the name of brand Bengaluru. The fact that people who have paid upwards of rupees 2 crore for a flat in a posh gated community are having to ration water speaks volumes of the government's poor planning. Now, it is to be noted that a majority of Bangalore's piped water supply comes from Kaveri River. Now we have learned that Bengaluru receives around 1,450 million litres of water from Kaveri alone, whereas the prescribed amount is 1,650 MLD. All these factors make it clear that the unprecedented growth of Bengaluru has been affected by the balance of availability and consumption. What we have learned is that the problem is exasperating in urban pockets where the city is expanding in areas like Mahadevpura, Yelahanka and RR Nagar. But in the old Bengaluru region, there doesn't seem to be any deficiency since it still has sufficient groundwater level. These areas where the city is expanding do not have piped water connections, and these are the regions which mainly rely on water tankers, which makes it clear that the expansion is the problem. The real solution that Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and Bengaluru's Development Minister D.K. Shivkumar need to be looking at is curbing the real estate development in the newly developed pockets of the city. Experts have time and again pointed out that there are not enough regulations in place to ensure water supply in these regions. So before trying to control borewell and water tankers, the need of the hour needs to be proper civic planning. I spoke to water conservation expert Raj Bhagath and civic activist Srinivas Alavilli on the issue. My first question, of course, will be to address the issue of infrastructural boom that the IT capital is facing? And is this, or could this be a reason for why Bangalore is currently facing a crisis like water? So we can start off with Mr. Bhagat.
Right. So, I mean, first is that what I would think is that Bengaluru is it's not the growth that is the biggest problem, but it is the place where it is growing is the problem, right? Like so, Bengaluru is actually situated in both the watersheds, Kaveri and Dakshina Pinnacle. Watersheds are actually overexploited already. Even with or without Bengaluru, it has been overexploited. And with the additional growth of Bengaluru, the stress is actually has been increasing because not just the domestic and the industrial demand for water, but also the associated water requirement for producing the agricultural requirements for the city, right? So
Right.
there is a secondary effect of it as well. So which is actually the problem in the sense it is. There is a limit to how much we can expand considering the amount of water that we have, and that is the reason what I see right now. And basically, in short, if I have to put it, your expenditure is pretty high, but your income is oscillating. And in years where your income is higher, you can manage it. But in years where you have less income, you'll have difficulty. And that's what Bengaluru is right now. It's not just Bengaluru right now; it is the entire watershed that is actually facing the trouble. In Bengaluru, we are able to witness it and we are able to report it better. But it is the watershed that is under stress right now the previous season. So in years of flooding or something of that sort, you will not have any of these water supply issues. But in years of drought, you'll have this kind of an issue. And this is, for the last few years, of course, we had flood situation and excess in all the watershed. Now I think it is
All
back
right.
again.
We'll come back to Mr. Raj. So Srinivas, so if you can tell us a little bit about the fact that rapid expansion of the city's limits. Can we really blame this for the unprecedented water crisis that we're currently facing?
Yeah, definitely. In 2007, the Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike became Brahat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike, the greater municipal corporation, by subsuming nearby towns and town municipalities as well as villages all around Bengaluru. So that's when we became BBMP, and we have been growing exponentially after that. The unplanned growth that we kept talking about we've known for a long time that there's going to be consequences for the unplanned growth. What is unplanned growth? You haven't thought about how you are going to deal with the waste management, how you're going to deal with the water, how you're going to deal with the traffic connectivity of the people. All of these things will show the signs once in a while. This year, like Raj mentioned, we're particularly a bad year for rains over the last 12 months, and the effect of which we are feeling now. And the feeling is really about those that are dependent on groundwater. Almost half of Bengaluru's water needs are met by groundwater. Other half is met by the Kaveri water supply, for which there is no change. What experts and government is saying is that not a drop of water is coming less from Kaveri, whatever the share of Bengaluru is. So then what happened? What happened is that all the borewells went dry. So the 50% of the people, half the water requirement is groundwater. And groundwater is not there because the borewells went dry. Why did they go dry? Because there was not enough rain. Now, when the Kaveri fifth phase comes about, half of that probably will be met. But still, that leaves the other half dry and also tells us about what is going to come in the future. It's a pretty dire situation. And in a way, it's a good that we are facing this crisis because nothing like a crisis for people to act on it, right? The solutions for all of these things have been talked about for many years by all the experts, and people in the government are also well aware of it. But when you stare a crisis in its face, then you begin to act. So I'm hoping that this particular crisis will help us move forward on a positive note.
That this unprecedented growth in Bengaluru, is this denting, the balance between consumption and availability?
Yeah, so definitely consumption and demand. So if you have more people depending on the same
We
amount of
consume
resources, you're going to have more fight. It's like that's why we have all the traffic jams, right? More cars can our roads can accommodate. Same thing, more water consumption than our water resources sources can accommodate right now. That's what you are facing at this point of time. Growth is one of the biggest reason for that, and not having thought through what will happen when there's such a growth and where there is, you've been giving occupancy certificates, you've been giving permissions for vertical growth, large communities of office spaces and residential communities, but haven't accounted for whether you are able to give water security. And because of the widespread availability of water tankers, private water, the citizens and the builders were also not very worried about those things. But when a year comes like this, when the water tankers also cannot find water and they have to go far away to fetch water, then you are going to have a crisis on your hands, which is what we have today.
Yes, Raj sir.
No, I think Srini had summarized it very clearly. I mean, see, the consumption is increasing, keeping on increasing, and the watershed doesn't have the provisions for, the water supply is going to remain almost the same. If not, it might oscillate in every year. Some years it might be higher, some years it might be lower. But if your consumption is going on, if it is going to increase forever, then it is not going to sustain. So basically, we have to work on conservation as well as reuse, right? Like, so that is the only option around it. And the larger discussion should be the diversification of growth. It's not just Bengaluru that should, grow, but it's, the next tier of cities. If we redistribute growth, we can reduce the pressure on the city a little bit.
Right. Now while we have such a severe crisis staring at the face of Bengaluru, the government is focusing on brand Bengaluru. They're talking about this. Shouldn't they be at this point of time, thinking about a water, an accurate water management issue, or talking about assessing the groundwater levels? Shouldn't brand Bengaluru be addressing these issues first, looking for a concrete water management plan or assessing the groundwater levels?
No, I mean, see, basically, last year we have launched the climate action plan for the city, right? So the brand Bangalore panel also has been conducting all the discussions so far, right? Like, so they have been discussing quite a while. So these changes that we are looking at, as far as assessment is considered, assessments are almost done, right? Like, so we know what the problem is. But the solution space is a little bit more complex, right? Like, so there are socio-economic implications of what we are going to do. And there are financial requirements as well as some governance structures and change a lot of things, right? Like, so there's a status quo that you have to upset, right? Like, so this is the way that we are working right now. And it is not just a political challenge, right? Like, so it is there's a bureaucratic challenge as well. And of course, there is a social challenge as well. So I don't think it will be done in a single, just because Brand Bangalore was launched last year or something like that, it doesn't mean that you will find solutions for it right away. But I think we are building to it. Like actually what Srinivas was pointing earlier, I mean, the crisis has kickstarted that process, right? Like, so now we know what we have to focus on. And I think, assessments have been done. I think, how do you find that solution and what is the roadmap for that solution? And we cannot implement all these things overnight. I believe that the conversations have already started. The conversations are not the problem. It is about the roadmap, and that requires a little bit of a nudge on how do we go about. Yeah.
Adding to it, Srinivas.
Yeah, I mean, see, Brand Bengaluru is an attempt to try to understand what is it that the people of Bengaluru want going forward. It's a gesture by the government and particularly the Deputy Chief Minister to bring all the departments under one roof and try to understand this. And if you notice the response to this also, I'm very pleased to see that he's holding a meeting with BBMP and BWSSB together. Traditionally, what happens in Bengaluru is that water is not the responsibility of the municipal corporation. Water is with the BWSSB. And BBMP is the city government, right? It's a municipal corporation with the mayor and the commissioner and all of that. So unless all of this, and who takes care of the water scarcity, it's BWSSB's job has traditionally been laying the pipelines from Kaveri to Bengaluru. So they were concerned with that part of the problem. They were not concerned so much with whether we are harvesting the rainwater or not, whether we are developing the lakes or not, because the lakes are under the BBMP. And if the lakes are full and lakes are thriving, then the ecosystem, the aquifers and the water, groundwater table also increases. But that comes under somebody else. So in this kind of scenario, the umbrella called Brand Bengaluru can help in such a way that it can mobilize different departments to work together and synchronize with each other. Definitely, a water scarcity is not a good thing for Brand Bengaluru, like a traffic problem, right? But if you think about last year, the Bengaluru public transport providers have done very well. They've got 30% more people using metro and bus. So there is some hope in terms of tackling the congestion and the pollution problem. Similarly, now that this has happened, see, the water problem of this year happened this year, but it's been building up for the last several years. It's not suddenly overnight it happened, right? It is coming through various years of neglect and not taking care of certain basic things, and lakes going out of action, and encroachments, the whole range of things that you can fill an entire show with. So somewhere the change has to begin, and that war footing things need to be done, right? So I think that's what, if Brand Bengaluru is really a serious commitment, then the same forum will act as a way of countering this current problem that we have and mobilizing all the resources the government have together. So that's what I'm hoping for at least.
Like while we're hoping for all of this, we have a situation which is so shameful that in a city like Bengaluru, where posh gated communities, in the heart of the city, you have units that are selling at 2 to 3 crores, have emptied their swimming pools, so much so that water is being rationed for a few days, a few hours a day, and car washing has been banned, lawn washing has been banned. If you can throw some light, Mr. Srinivas, I mean, we'll continue from there before we come to Mr.
One thing I want to tell you, viewers, is that water has always been a problem in Bengaluru. It has always been a problem for many years, not now.
Right.
Okay? It's felt by the urban poor and the slums and the marginalized communities. People wake up at 3 a.m. to catch water, things like that. The people in the posh gated communities and swimming pools that you're mentioning, they were oblivious to problem, because in the middle of the night a tanker is coming and filling up their big reservoirs underground, and they're using it whatever. So it's not seen by them. The tap opens, water comes. So for them there was no water problem. But even then there was a water problem, in the sense that those tankers are depleting the water resources and filling them up. So now it's about equity and trying to, only when the people that are middle class or upper middle class start feeling the heat of a situation, then it becomes a big news, right? That is the situation we find ourselves this year. But the more they are aware of these scenarios, they will start reusing their water. They'll start harvesting their rooftop water, and every drop of water that they use can be reused. Are these apartment communities and gated complexes doing that? Are they storing the water in open wells? Are they reusing it? How much of the water are they spending on washing their cars? How much of it is being spent on gardening? Whether it's a judicious use of water or not. All of these questions will pop up. And because they pay a monthly maintenance bill of 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees, it doesn't pinch them, because it's shared by so many families. The moment the tanker rates go up 3 times, 4 times, now suddenly they are going to feel the heat in their monthly maintenance bill. So all of these things are triggers for change, in my opinion. It's painful, it's very difficult, but it's a way for us, our children, or for future generations to remember that conservation of water is also a very important part of it, right? Like anything else. If you produce less waste in your home, there is less waste to segregate, less waste to go to the landfill site, right? Waste is produced by people, not produced by government. Traffic is created by people, not created by government. Similarly, water usage also, there's a lot of role that citizens and citizen communities, residential communities, office spaces can do in that. So if we do that and the government works on what it needs to work, bring more water from Kaveri according to the, by law, how much we are available to, by how much we are able to access, and recharge the groundwater table, and mandate. We have beautiful laws in this city. We have rainwater harvesting. But if you don't do rainwater harvesting, the penalty is so little that people don't do the rainwater harvesting and happy to pay the penalty. Well, now we are paying the real penalty, right? So if you made the rainwater harvesting movement, a mission that every home, every family actually commits to, then the groundwater levels will keep up. Even today, I must tell you that there are a lot of areas in Bengaluru where the groundwater level is very high. They have no water problem. The water problem is happening in certain places where the borewells have dried out, and that includes these outer areas where there's a lot of these posh villas and communities and all of that. So that is where the planning and thinking comes around. How would you develop an area without knowing that there is no Kaveri water coming in the next 5 years, right? So this is the kind of balance that we need to do going forward.
Now, Ratsa, while we speak about this balance and while we propose these many points that the government must tackle, I really want to ask that what is this brand Bengaluru that the government is trying to sell to the world? amidst all of these issues? What is this brand Bengaluru that they are trying to sell to the world?
In my mind, brand Bengaluru is an attempt to convey that Bengaluru has been enormously successful in attracting a lot of investment, and the best talent across the world want to come and work in Bengaluru. And Bengaluru is a safe city, and it's a clean city, and it provides good civic amenities to the city. Bengaluru gets a lot of bad rap for traffic and other things. I think they're trying to do that, and imagine how Bengaluru will be in the future. So anytime you pick up a campaign that is about branding and something that goes wrong, obviously it will become a target. So that's a risk of trying to brand anything, because you try to brand something as the best car, and then the car will go and have an accident. Then what are you going to do, right? So this is how you have to deal with it. And the more you emphasize the brand, the more you are accountable for making the brand work. So I am all for it. Advertise the brand more and be accountable and solve the problem.
Raj sir, some final thoughts on brand Bengaluru that the government is showcasing to the world?
I think it's fine, right? Like, so, I mean, see, every city needs motivation as well as accountability. And, if it is going to be business, then there's nothing going to be happening, right? Like, so we need some kind of political will and everything. And that usually comes with branding, right? Like, so this is the same case with Chennai also. Chennai tried something called the Singara Chennai. And I mean, this was years back. And whether it is going in the right direction or not, someone is taking accountability for it, right? Like, so someone is owning it up, and someone is taking actions or something like that. Of course, it might require a guidance. Sometimes it might not require guidance. It depends on the person who's going to take the charge. But it's actually a good change that you have a hope that someone is taking charge. And for that reason, I think brand Bengaluru is fine. See, of course, it is brand Bengaluru from government. That is one side, and on the citizen side also. Like, I mean, sorry, I couldn't answer to that other question on lecture. I mean, for example, when you mentioned swimming pools, etc., etc., those are luxuries. Those are not essentials. When you are having an year of drought, I don't see it as a shame, right? Like, so I think this is so far water has been subsidized for the rich in Bengaluru. The real cost of water has not been borne by them, right? Like, so it has been heavily subsidized, and they have been enjoying these subsidies for so long. And this year they are just realizing it. Yeah.
Because you spoke about these are luxuries, these are not, your basic necessities. But isn't this the very idea of brand Bengaluru that our government is proposing to the world?
No, it doesn't mean that in the way that you want, and without understanding the situation we are in. We are facing an year of severe drought. We have to understand that, right? Like, it doesn't mean that, I mean, just because I have the access to swimming pool, I know how to swim, doesn't mean that I can fill the swimming pool almost every day. That is not what brand Bengaluru is all about. What brand Bengaluru is all about is about improving the life and the quality of life in the city. It's not about glass buildings. It is not about posh cars and stuff like that. That's a different one. What brand Bengaluru is all about is how to make a city of more than a crore to live happily and to have economic prosperity. And that economic prosperity doesn't necessarily include swimming pools, etc. I mean, personal swimming pools. I'm not talking about community swimming pools. I'm talking about personal swimming pools where I want to do whatever I want. So that's this is not the Wild West where anyone can do whatever they want. There should be some regulations to the way that we utilize wealth and everything, and that regulation is something that is required. And because it has not been regularized is the reason why we are facing it right now. I mean, in a year of drought, if this had been judiciously used, this water resources that if it had been judiciously used, we wouldn't end up here. In the sense, like, we have been before the news broke out about 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, before that everyone was using it as if it was a surplus year. Just because it was informed there right now, everybody's reconsidering it, etc., etc. But if this had been the course of action from September or October, we would have been in a better situation till the next Kaveri stage comes up, right? Like, so I think it's a joint. Brand Bengaluru is not a government initiative. It is also something that people should be understanding and they should be working towards for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, gentlemen, Mr. Raj Bhagath and Mr. Srinivas Alavilli, for joining us on this discussion. And hopefully we see brand Bengaluru turning out to be a positive impact for our city on a whole. Thank you so much for joining India Today, SoSouth.
Thank you so much.